Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. In this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Sarah Chenais Hutchings and Jacob Hutchings. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. What a pleasure.
And you're here because it's Valentine's Day, and I was like, who are the couples who are so sweet and lovely and loving and would be good couples to have on Valentine's Day? And the first 27 couldn't come, and so...
I'm glad.
No, you were amongst the first couple of couples I thought of, and the first ones who I asked.
That's awesome. Well, you found the least romantic couple in Rhinebeck.
You know, you say that, but just now, as we were listening to a minute of theme music, I saw the interactions between you two, and it was amazing. You reached over to hold her hand, to hold Sarah's hands, and she sort of leaned over and said, "Oh, your hands are cold," and then put her other hand on top to warm it up. And, and then you were whispering something else to each other. And it was so sweet and just casually loving, which is the greatest thing.
That's sweet. Well, actually, my hands were just cold. She was very loving. I was just trying to warm my hands up a little bit, but...
Very romantic.
But that's it, right? I mean, the grand gestures are nice and stuff, but the daily little thing is really what keeps the romance alive or
Absolutely.
Makes it seem romantic.
I mean, you have to. We've been together for a very long time. If you don't make every little day special, then, it gets boring.
And how long is a very long time?
Married for 23 years?
Yes.
We have to check in with our daughter. She reminds us how long we've actually been married for.
Because
she knows. And
because she's 24.
She's 24. Yeah. She'll be 23, actually. Yes. But yeah, you're right on. No, been together for 26 years.
26?
26 years.
Maybe?
And this perfect segue, how did you all meet?
You have the story down, so you can go for it.
Oh,
right. So we met in France. I was traveling through Europe alone and was having a bit of a existential moment in life where I didn't know what I was doing and where I was going. And I called a friend of mine who was interning for a company in the south of France where Sarah was working. And he said, "Oh, you have to come. So they're amazing people here." He said, they just bought this house. Come and meet my friends and see where I'm working and spend a day. And I went and met Sarah the first day that I was there. And she introduced me to her family and all of her friends. And I spent 3 months.
Yeah. I spoke English a little bit at the time, but I was one of the only ones. We were maybe two of us in the house who could communicate in English. He didn't speak French. And we had a bunch of students from Boulder.
University of Boulder.
Yeah. They were our interns for the summer. So they were there for the whole summer. And
why did you have interns? What were you doing there?
Biotechnology.
Doing what?
Biotechnology.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the house? And what was the town?
No. We were in the south of France, close to Sophia Antipolis, which is like the Silicon Valley of France.
Okay.
And the company I worked for was a biotech company.
Okay.
So because we had the biggest house, we housed the students.
Okay.
I mean, they camped. It's not really housing.
Yeah, it wasn't really housing that year because the house
camping.
It's a 500-year-old house that hadn't been lived in probably 75 years, had trees growing out of the middle of the floor in the living room,
But it was big.
Oh, yeah.
So it was big enough.
And this was your family's house?
Yeah.
And was the whole family into biotech or just you?
Yeah, it was my family's company.
Okay. And you have siblings?
I have a very complex, I have one full sister and 3 half-brothers.
Oh, nice.
So it's a lot of moving parts.
And do you remember when this one, Jacob Hutchings, first entered? Oh, yeah. Oh, good. It's a good face.
You can't see the look on the face, can you?
Yeah, it's a good one.
You just had graduated college, right? That was your first year.
Couple years out.
First or second year out of college. He showed up, and I could still remember the door opening, coming for the main entrance, and he was this skinny dude with long hair, wearing tivas and shorts, a long beard with beads in it.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
You
got to decorate the beard
sometimes.
Yes,
it was very hippie.
Yeah.
It was very hippie. He was really like the American student from...
And a backpack.
And a backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just Europe alone on a
so
backpack.
Sweet.
Sounded great.
And so what did you think? You see this hippie with beads in his beard
He
coming
was
in.
adorable. He was so gentle,
Really?
so nice, like very polite. Your parents did good. You know, he really fits in very quickly, and we trusted the people that told him to come. Like our students
Right.
were very.
And-
Oh yeah, and they're still like all
We're still good
three
friends,
students
yeah.
were still really close friends.
And who were
Yeah.
the people who told you to go there?
Who are the people? Well, I was on the phone with my friend Jeremy Jones, who told me that, who's like, you got to come down here and hang out. It was like, I mean, and it's true. I mean, you're in the south of France. It's unbelievably beautiful. And Sarah's family had just bought this 500-year-old house that needed a lot of love with 150 olive trees on it. All of the terraces had been like completely destroyed. And so we got into, my background and having done a lot of work, I got into helping and just kind of enjoyed working through this. It was almost like doing, it's more archaeology than it was like restoration of a home. So working on a 500-year-old house is pretty cool.
I mean, we had a church in the house. Like it's a very cool house.
Is that house still in the family?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you get back there often? And presumably your children have been there.
They were born there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the kids were born in France. We lived in that house when the kids were born.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I love that. So you landed on the doorstep there. You said you had experience building things and doing, manual labor, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so how long did you think you were going to stay?
Oh, I was planning on just spending a night and crashing and saying thank you and moving on. I was supposed to be in Italy the next day, and there's a certain moment when you kind of feel like you found your people that you'd say, I can't run away right now. Let's kind of
Well, good for you.
Flush
'cause
this
people
one out.
do run away anyway and then regret it for, a week, a month, or their whole lives.
yeah. Well, 26 years later, I'm considering regretting it.
I think it's too late to run away now.
Yeah, probably so.
So-
She'd find me anyway.
So do you? That's
will.
good. That's
Track you down.
that's the hallmark of an enduring relationship.
Find my phone.
Yeah, somebody with a good dog with a good nose. So you remember when you first laid eyes on Sarah?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so, it was, we weren't romantic right off the bat. There was, which is always better, we had a terrific friendship, like you said, because she was translating between a lot of her family who didn't speak English, and my Spanish was barely okay at the time.
And it was French that you were supposed to speak anyway.
Well, I know, that's why my Spanish was barely okay. I had no French at all. And so we spent a lot of time, and there was a period over probably the first 6 months to a year that we knew each other. We were going out regularly to the same cafe every night with Sarah and her brother Brice, and the three of us would sit and smoke too many cigarettes and drink espresso
Lot of
until
coffee.
midnight, and Sarah would translate for us. And eventually it became like a Fringlish, and he started speaking English, I started speaking French, until they finally were like, all right, now you just got to go and go to the bakery and order bread for yourself. You know how to speak French. And I was like,
Right.
really? Took me about 2 years.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. And did you do any book studying on that? Book learning?
No.
Just
No.
all on the street.
Photoshop. Photoshop was good for me. Because I knew where all the menus were in Photoshop, so I actually knew all the translation of all the terms. Like,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Because we had Photoshop on our
but
computers.
Photoshop
but
was in French.
Huh. So it impresses me listening to this that it must be a very intimate thing to be a long-term translator for somebody.
Yeah.
And so as you're translating, you're listening very closely to this guy and his thoughts. And I'm guessing your English was very good.
My English was not very good at the beginning, but by
It was
translating,
great.
my English got better.
And so did you feel
Yeah.
that you were slowly starting to fall in love with this guy and his
Yeah.
thoughts and his voice? And
Yeah, I mean, you had to go back eventually. First of all, you only get a 90-day visa to come to Europe. So you had to come back, and you had to go work. You had to go work. And when you left, we did the email thing. Like, we emailed, I actually have all the emails printed out, by the way.
Yeah, 1998, there weren't very many.
And it was the first time we were
Cell
having
phones.
email. So we emailed a lot. We used the phone a lot to everybody's demise because it was so expensive at the time to do internet.
Yes.
No
Thank you to the
whispering in
corporate.
microphone.
So expensive. It was crazy. Like the first phone bills, I had a very stern talking to from the family that was like, we have to find another solution.
Because you were on a dial-up.
Yeah. We didn't have internet at the time.
Did you have, they had this thing, the
It was just the phone.
Minitel?
Yes.
Minitel?
Minitel, yes.
And could you send emails over that?
I had a computer at work, so we did email at work.
Okay.
Yeah. So for a period of time, probably, during that first couple of years, I would go to France for 6 weeks, and then I would come home for 3 weeks, and then I would go there for 3 weeks, and Sarah would come over here for 6 weeks, and the two of us probably
We traveled a lot.
Probably 30 plus round trips to France over a few years before the kids were born.
Okay. Before the kids were born.
Yeah.
And also before the kids were born, I'm guessing there was a first kiss. There was a decision that we're going to try this other stuff on top of just being friends.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
That actually
I hope
happened.
we have the same version.
Oh yeah.
You want to tell
That's
yours
right.
first?
Yeah, you go to the soundproof booth. We'll hear one
So
story.
it wasn't with Sarah. No, I'm just kidding. That's
Was it at your parents' house?
no, it's the studio.
It was at the studio. All right.
What's
I'm jogging.
All right,
I'm
come
jogging
on,
the
share-
memory a little bit.
share
My parents were living in Larchmont at the time.
Uh-huh.
And when Sarah came, the first time that she came to visit, we stayed with my parents, and that really wasn't good for any sort of relationship building. So we had a photo studio.
And how come? What condition your parents
I'm not
in?
really. For no other reason than we're sharing the same roof. That was it.
Right.
So
They were still working at the time. It was like their life was very busy, very hectic.
yeah, but it was also just I wanted some privacy. I think that's really the main thing. And we had a photo studio that was in New Rochelle that I shared with my parents, and I had just put in like a little loft where I could crash when I needed a little bit of distance.
Uh-huh. So there was a bed up there for the boudoir photography.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not sure how much detail I want to go into.
No, but then
Nobody's listening. Go on.
Oh, perfect. Well, we
we
had
did a lot of travel.
we did a lot of travel.
We went to Paris together. We went to the Middle East together a few times.
Multiple times.
We
yeah.
went to Italy. We did a lot of travel together afterwards, and then we traveled a lot in France also.
Uh-huh.
Because we wanted to show, me and my brother wanted to show him France. France is beautiful.
Yeah.
So we went, we did road trips. We went, everywhere to show him where we would grow up, where we would go for the summers, see my grandparents. It was fun. It was a good time.
None of these really sound like the first kiss.
No, they weren't the first kiss. The first kiss was, from what I remember, and Sarah can tell you, we had a balcony or like a fire escape, and the fire escape from the studio was really just like we were up on the top floor, and it looked out across 95. So Highway 95, which goes right I-95, and there's like
the love highway.
Obviously, and there's a big billboard right there, and it just Sarah is an amazing kisser.
But you didn't know this.
I had no idea. Nobody told me ahead of time, and it's definitely been
Thank
one of the saving
goodness.
graces of our relationship. Is that
She's blushing right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Great.
You can see. But yeah, I don't know if you have if you have a different story.
Thank you. You're all red.
So did you decide? Did you discuss amongst yourselves, like, what if we tried to be romantic?
We actually did have that conversation. That realization of, what, we're really
Can
good
we
friends.
make this work?
Can we make this work? Would this actually be I said, well, I don't know, give it a try.
And so was it a discussion? It was like, okay, we'll give it a try. First, we should kiss. Here it comes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Well, I don't
really?
even think it was
Yeah.
here it comes. Yeah, we're very pragmatic people, I think.
See if it works out.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's worked out in a beautiful marriage, and you guys clearly get along very well. And you've got a couple of wonderful children and a great bed here in Rhinebeck.
Yeah.
So
Things have definitely worked out very well. I have no complaints about any of it. Any complaints?
Oh, they're on that pad next to your bed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I got the list. Right.
you get a list at the end of every day. There's a fresh list. I love that. Now, and you all, you say next to your bed, you live on sort of a farm. a farmlet
Yeah.
outside of town here in Rhinebeck, and you raise some animals, you raise a bunch of crops, and what's going on the farm?
So the farm was, we decided when the
It
first,
all starts with chickens.
it all starts with chicken. Like the chicken is the gateway animal. It's like, this is how it starts, all starts. Like it was the first year we were here and we were still living with your parents. They have a bigger house on Stone Church. And
and we were renovating our
we
current
were
house.
renovating our house. And then the landscaper were coming and they were telling me, oh, we're going to spray the lawn for the ticks. And I was like, what are you going to do? Like, yeah, we're going to put like pesticides to kill the ticks. I was like, oh, don't. You know, we just moved to New York. I had cancer before.
Oh.
So I was like fresh from chemotherapy, maybe a year out. And I was like, no, we're not doing pesticides.
Not putting poison on my
That's
lawn.
not happening. And then I went to Agway to
with two little kids. Yeah.
to get some flowers, and I was like complaining to the lady at Agway. I was like, I don't know what to do. Those guys, they want to use pesticide on the lawn. And she looked at me and she smiled and she was like, you see those little like baby chicks over there? Get a bunch of them. They're going to eat all the ticks. So I get 6 because you have to get a minimum of 6. So I get 6 baby chicks and we fall in love. And 3 weeks later, I go back and I get 6 more.
So she fell in love with the chicks. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When you said we fall in love, you pointed to Jake. I thought, oh, that's so beautiful.
That's why I
The
corrected
chickens
it.
I
then
love
fell
the
in love.
chickens. And that's how we got our first chickens. And after that, that was game over. We got 2 goats. Then we got rabbits. Then we got pigs. We did the Dutchess County Fair. The kids did 4-H. The gateway.
The gateway.
The gateway animal.
Yeah.
And so the kids did 4-H. I love the
Yeah.
4-H at the Dutchess County
Oh,
Fair.
yeah.
Oh,
They
it's been
did-
wonderful.
They did the pigs 4-H. That was
Oh, they
intense.
did? So did they have like the long stick?
Oh,
and they had
yeah.
to like lead the pig around in front of the judges?
Yes, the first year we did the pigs, Benjamin was like 8 maybe. He was what they call the cloverbud, like the youngsters. And he won first place in one of the shows.
Oh, that's terrible.
And it was just like out of the blue.
So
And
now he's hooked.
it was so
Oh, yeah,
cool.
he was hooked.
It was so
I mean, he
cool.
must have weighed like 50 pounds, and you're out there showing pigs with like, maybe up to 10 or 12, 300+ pound animals.
Right.
And every once in a while they
And
fight.
you're there with a stick.
And you're there with a little stick, and you're 50 pounds. Like,
Every
you just
once in a
wanna-
while, the pigs fight.
Yeah, I don't think the kids ever fought. That actually would have been kind of fun. But
Right?
yeah,
Poke at each other with a
Poke
stick.
at each other.
And what kind of pig did he raise?
For meat. They're mixed breed pigs
What's it called?
for meat. It's like they're not the Yorkshires mix. Sometimes we had a
we have some
Duroc
Yorkshires
one
and some
time.
Hampshires. Sometimes, some of them they call them blue butts, which they're a mixed breed.
It's a mixed breed.
Yeah, Durocs are like all brown pigs. We've done a few different ones. It depends what the kids want that year. It's like, oh, I want a brown cat or I want a white cat. So.
And so the
they're pigs.
kids, Benjamin, in this case, got it in his head that he wanted to raise a pig. Was he in 4-H already?
No.
Yeah, I don't
That
think
was
he got
that was
into
his
his head. I
first
think we
year.
just forced him into it.
Yeah.
Did
Said,
you?
Oh yeah. Said,
I
you're
mean-
doing this. I think that we pushed the kids into it.
Yes. It was first fun for us, but I think it was also fun for them. And we wanted to see the food chain from the beginning to the end. And we wanted them also to know, like, if you're going to do this, if you want to have meat on your table, this is the price to pay. Like, you have to raise the animal with love and care and take good care of them. And eventually, they will have one bad minute and then
Right.
be in your freezer for the rest of the winter.
So just to recap, you forced your kid into 4-H because you like bacon.
Yes.
Yes.
That was, and actually, that was probably the
Both of
best
them
way to.
in unison. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
And so so he raised a pig, he won a prize, and now he's hooked. I'm guessing. You're like, I want to do this over again. But what happens at the end of the Dutchess County Fair with the prize pigs?
Goes to the butcher.
They go to the butcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while, like if a prize pig, like if they win gilt class, which is specifically for breeding pigs.
Gilt class.
Gilt, but not Jewish gilt. Like it's
you raised
we
me,
ra-
and now you sent me to the function. You rude.
I definitely
Yeah.
should have been more careful with that one. But yeah,
Gilt
so
class.
the gilt are the female pigs that are still intact, and so if you
Okay.
have one that wins, sometimes a breeder will come and buy them
Okay.
To breed them.
to
before
breed
they're-
them.
And so what happened to Benjamin's?
Butcher.
Oh, yeah.
Butcher.
Yeah.
So did the butcher buy it or
Bacon.
No.
Or you sent it off to the butcher.
You send it off to the butcher, and then a week later, you pick up everything packaged and pretty and smoked.
And does the butcher charge you a fee, or does he unintended
Yeah.
take a cut?
No, he charges us.
Right.
I wondered if he takes a cut.
No, because I always ask for everything. Like
That's true,
they
Sarah's.
would take, like the butcher would keep like the things the people don't want. But I'm
Right.
French, so I want the trouters, I want the liver, I want everything.
Right.
So I was yes.
And she makes the most amazing things
And I
with
make
them as well.
prosciutto, I make pate, I make I go all out. If I'm gonna raise a pig, I'm gonna use everything.
Right. Ears?
He will not give them to me.
They did not give them to you. You don't get the ears. Hooves?
Some butchers would, but most of them the FDA
If they look good.
rules. The FDA rules are very specific the way they have to clean the facilities.
Right.
So it depends how I don't want to go into detail, but it depends how they slaughter the animals. Sometimes they just cannot give you certain parts because they just become too dirty and they cannot wash and bleach and stuff. So
And are there many butchers around here?
a couple. Yeah. I mean, the hunters, they take their deer to the butcher.
Right.
So they do the same.
But I'm just all of a sudden I mean I know the hunters, and you can have somebody come out and field dress the deer for you or whatever, but I never imagined sort of like a proper abattoir.
Yeah, no,
Well,
there
there's
are
one
a
in
few.
Milan that's pretty large.
Yeah, for years we were using Joe Malafi in Milan.
He has a big facility.
Yeah.
He does
and he does a lot,
cattle.
all USDA.
Yeah.
You
He does cattle and lamb and stuff. He does everything.
Right. And so you currently have pigs?
not yet. So during the winter we don't, and we didn't last year. I think 2 years we took off.
They're awfully
We haven't had
smelly.
we don't keep them in the house, which is
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
So
smart.
we
That
actually
must
keep
have been
them
my
next to the
problem.
neighbor's house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
It's across the street, down the road. Come on over. I'll show you where we keep the
Okay,
pigs.
good.
It's,
When both kids were in college, we took a break because the kids were helpers, and otherwise it's all on me. So we took a break. We're gonna get back to it. We're gonna get back to
yeah,
it.
this
But
year's
we
the
took a
first year.
couple
We
of years
figured it was
off.
a good year this year to get back into really pushing our farm a little bit further, because every year we do different projects, and Sarah's the brainchild of the farm projects.
No, the farm is my brainchild.
That's what I meant to say. That's what you misunderstood.
Let me correct your English.
Yeah, thank you. And
She's still translating for you.
I know, I love it. Yeah, and then I do all the muscle work. So, and it's my happy place though. I mean, I work all day and I come home, and if I could spend 2 or 3 hours gardening, farming, whatever it is, just being that connected, it makes me happy.
Right.
And we have a large property. We have 15 acres. It's not all field, it's mostly forest, but there's a lot of foraging. We forage for mushrooms. I got certified last year to be a mushroom forager for the state of New York, which was super cool. Way more complicated than I was expecting. As somebody who's been picking mushroom my whole life, it was not easy to get certified. And, it's living off the land. That's one of those, it sounds romantic, but at the same time, I like to control where my food is coming from.
Right.
That's where our romantic thing comes in. It's living off the land.
Hey, baby, you look, a black trumpet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's so many mushrooms here. It's crazy.
And what are your favorite foraged mushrooms? I
have
guess
a
for
few.
cooking.
I have a few because the season is so long in New York. It starts in May with morels, and they're fantastic. And then you have
When you can find them.
when you can find them, they're fantastic.
Can you not cultivate mushrooms?
Not really. I mean, you can do oyster mushrooms. You can do. You can cultivate shiitake. But End of the Woods is one of my favorite ones. It's one that comes in October, November, end of October, September, maybe. End of the Woods is definitely my favorite. I think we have a lot of.
We actually have
porcini.
some maitake pickles that
Yeah.
Sarah made for you to try afterwards. So
All right. What is a maitake pickle?
It's the end of the wood, but pickled.
Okay.
Like you would do cornichon, but it's the
Pickled.
mushroom.
Pickled mushroom.
Yeah,
Huh.
so good.
it's pretty good.
And so what do they have in cornichon, like dill seed or?
The cornichon has no deal. No, it's this one. There's shallots, peppercorn. It's in a vinegar base
Uh-huh.
situation.
Oh, yum.
It's very yummy.
So back to the certification.
Yeah.
It's certified. Is it called certified mushroom forager or
Yeah.
mycologist or?
No, it's a forager. So it's the specification is something that states have tried to organize so people who sell mushrooms at markets, at our restaurants, actually are vetted to know what they're doing.
Oh,
So
smart.
we have a registered number, so they know that we passed the test, which is not just like you have to pass the class, you have to get 100.
Oh, right. Because
Because-
the downside is,
Yeah, no.
you know, liver failure.
Yes. So you have to really ace the test.
Right.
But and they only give you, I'm certified for 17 mushrooms because they want to control what you can pick and sell. So those are the ones that I'm certified for. Some of them I would never find here because you cannot find them in New York State, but you need to know what they are.
Right. Huh. Well, congratulations. When
It was fun.
was there a lot of studying involved?
Yeah. It was like a 2-weekend class, like tons of quizzes and like millions of questions about each of the mushrooms, the shape they're supposed to be, the color of the spores, the color of the size of the gills and the stems, and like so many things that you have to know to be able to 100% every time identify the mushrooms that you want to identify.
Right. And how big is the class? Is this
We were 8 or 10 people that time, but I'm sure they do that every weekend. So
Right. And do you sell these mushrooms, the mushrooms you forage?
yeah, to some restaurants in Rhinebeck, and
Uh-huh.
it's not like you go out, you may come with nothing, and sometimes you go out and you will find like 10 pounds of them.
Right.
It's
And which mushrooms are most valuable?
probably the morels, right?
Yeah, because
Because they're so rare.
they're so rare.
They're flaky.
Morels and porcinis, but porcinis you have to know what to do with them. But it's a good mushroom, porcinis. Yeah, I think that would be the most expensive because chicken of the woods.
Anything that you
There's
can
so many
only
of it.
harvest, anything that you can't grow like yourself
Right.
Yeah.
gets very expensive.
And do we have truffles around here?
No.
At Tops, they have truffles.
No, they
but-
don't.
Oh, they don't?
That don't even. Maybe dry truffles more. The only place you have natural truffles in America is in Oregon.
Huh.
But people are trying to cultivate them. I'm sure there's a trick to it because in France we have truffle forest,
Right. And truffle pigs?
truffle pigs and dogs. You can
Dogs
train
too.
a dog because it's underground, so you have truffles are
You
hard
need
to
a
find.
critter with really good smelling
Yeah.
And digging.
and digging.
They're never very, very deep. Like you can go in Europe, in Italy, in France and Italy, now they do classes. You can go to farms where they will take you like truffle hunting. Like,
And did you grow up as a forager?
yeah.
So this house in the south of France was in a rural area. Were your folks, foragers or farmers?
There's no real rural area in the south of France because
Okay.
it's like so developed and touristic. So even though the house we have a lot of land compared to other people, because it used to be a property that was owned by a monastery, so it was like their olive orchard. So we kept the whole orchard together. But my grandpa, who lived close to Bordeaux, was a great forager, and I foraged with him when I probably started. I was 2 years old. He would take me out. My grandpa and my uncle would take me out, and we'll go pick mushrooms.
Love that.
And it's
Yeah.
like on every, when we were in high school, even when we were in the south of France, we were in high school, we'll take the car like a Saturday and we drive up the mountains to go to a shack that my other grandpa had. And we will stay there and go mushroom foraging
Right.
for the weekend.
This sounds like a wonderful thing.
You
It
know,
sounds kind of
it's
idyllic.
a sport. It's a weekend thing people do. You go for a walk in the forest and you pick mushrooms. You know what they are. And if you don't know what they are in France, you take them to the pharmacist and the pharmacist will tell you what they are. It's part
Love
of
that.
it's part of their training.
So you're sort of reliving your youth here in Rhinebeck.
Yeah.
Bringing some France to Rhinebeck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you, Jacob, are you reliving your youth here in the same to the same degree?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
I just thought that was a good answer. Yeah, it was,
But you grew up in Westchester somewhere, is that right?
I grew up. Yeah, when I grew up on City Island
Oh.
first.
Okay.
And I've
New
been on
York
like
City.
a 10-year plan. Yeah, it was on, just off the edge of the Bronx. And City Island, we lived all the way at the end of the island on a dead-end street. And there were like 9 kids on my block.
I love
And
that.
we just played all the time. You know, it was just one of those. So I feel as though I kind of had free reign. The only thing that ever bothered me was the U.S. Coast Guard, because they'd come up and down the beaches and they didn't like kids lighting off fireworks and being hoodlums when we were 7 and 8 years old, as it
Well,
were.
yeah.
So, yeah. But no, I feel as though when I say like reliving, like I was always outside.
Right.
I need that connection with nature. I need to be outside. So having a farm, even though, you know, growing up in the Bronx and then in Larchmont and in Westchester for my high school, like middle school and high school years, you know, listen, we're going from the suburbs to like, you know, to something that's more rural. So being able to take advantage of the space to actually get more into a farm project, and building La Petite Ferme, which is what we've,
Oh, there you go.
the name of
I
our
was going to
farm.
ask.
Yeah.
So how did you get from where you were to here in Rhinebeck?
His parents.
Yeah.
Oh, your folks moved up here.
Amy
Yeah.
and Richard.
Amy and Richard.
Amy and
Yeah.
Richard.
I've
They
seen
were-
those two.
They were in the 9/11 exodus from
Yeah.
the city. They wanted to get further away from Manhattan, so I think they put their house on the market 2 weeks after 9/11 and sold it
In
that
2
day
days.
or something
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
so
And,
quick.
they moved up here early 2002.
Wow.
And it was the first time that I had ever been to Rhinebeck was when we came back to visit them with a baby Bethany, I think it was.
Yeah.
Came back from the south
France.
of France.
Yeah.
And how long you lived there? 2 kids worth.
10 years.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah. 10
We
years.
had to get married.
Oh, you did.
So I'm not a fan of marriage. I never thought I would get married because I was one of those like French women who was too good for marriage.
I hadn't heard.
You
of
know,
those
like
French women
those
until
women
just
in the
now.
movies. And but then we got pregnant. We wanted to get pregnant. It was not like an accident or anything. And then we realized that you're gonna have to be deported. they're gonna want you back over there. So we got married.
Romantic reasons, so you could,
Exactly.
So you
So
could stay.
romantic.
So
I
you
was
could stay together. Yeah.
So pregnant.
So
Oh.
pregnant.
You were like 5 months pregnant, but I realized the
pregnant.
night before our wedding, which was a small civil wedding in Antibes, which I would love. It's a great story, but
It's a
We
I
have
realized
plenty of time.
I had never proposed.
Oh,
That we had just kind of decided to get married and went through all the process and stuff like that.
So
And
we
so,
decided to live together, have children,
we were absolutely
and
we were
then
together.
we had
And
to get married.
so Sarah, of course, wasn't drinking because she was pregnant. So I had to sit down with a bottle of wine and finish an entire bottle of wine before I realized I had the courage to get down on one knee and actually say, "Will you marry me?" And she's like, "We're getting married tomorrow. What's wrong with you?" And I was like, I had to say it. You know, like I was something
that's
a
so
little
good.
traditionalist.
Yes.
That's fabulous. But also, what a ball busting answer, really.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I was like,
dude?
what are you doing?
Get married
What are you
tomorrow?
doing? Yeah, we're getting married
It's
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
And did you propose in English or French or some mixture?
English is our
Oh.
language. We speak English together.
Yeah, and there was a bottle
Yeah.
of wine, so I don't really remember if there was English
in
or
English.
French.
It was in English.
Oh,
I'm
good.
pretty sure. I know where it was. It was behind the restaurants next to the fountain. It was so cute.
I know. That was, yes,
Behind the restaurant in Antibes.
In
Close.
Valbonne, in our little town.
in our little town.
It was the restaurant, the bar we used to go all the time, that we will spend nights smoking and drinking. And it was there. Just
Cigarettes. And coffee.
Cigarettes.
It's true.
Cigarettes and coffee.
Yeah.
Well, now you brought
Smoking
wine.
and drinking today is like a kind of
That's true.
different
That's true.
concept, you
We
know.
didn't drink
Yeah.
alcohol at the time.
But yes, we
You
have
brought wine here tonight. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for that. A
You're
nice
welcome.
French wine.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. So what's
you want to
what's
pronounce how it is? A Côte de Rhône.
It's a good
not-
Joan.
A Côte de Rhône.
From the south of France.
It's not
very
the
nice.
easiest for me to pronounce.
well, why? It seems. How am I mispronouncing it? Côte de Rhône.
See, you're just doing a good job. C'est Côte du Rhône.
Côte de Rhône.
Côte du Rhône.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds better when the French say anything.
Yeah. So the next day, our wedding, Sarah's mom was living in Antibes, and so we were able to have use the town hall of Antibes and just do like a civil marriage. And what I didn't realize, because I had never been to the town hall in Antibes before, and you walk into this building, and you literally have spiraling marble staircases
So
that
pretty.
go upstairs to the salle de mariage. And the salle de mariage is in an old castle, and you're right on the Mediterranean Sea, looking out over like this beautiful Côte d'Azur, blue waters. And I was struck by how beautiful
It was gorgeous. And it was my cousin who married us.
It's true. So she did the ceremony in French
my cousin,
and in
my
English.
cousin was working for the mayor. She was one of the mayor appointees. And she studied in University of Miami, so she spoke English. And so she was able to do the ceremony in French and in English. It was really cute.
It was. Merci, Sylvie.
Yeah, it was very nice.
So sweet. And your folks were there.
Yep,
Yes.
my folks were there.
And you've got siblings, don't you?
Yes, this is a sore point though. My siblings, Spencer and Peter, were not there, and it was because
Boo.
they were coming in 2 weeks. We got married on the 30th of November, and they were coming to spend Christmas and New Year's with us. And so I was like, guys, it's just not
We
that.
were both in college at the time. It was the end
Yeah.
of the semester. Like
They both really wanted to come. I'm like, we're just going to sign some papers. I'm like, it's going to be
Right.
a nothing thing.
and then they saw the pictures.
In this beautiful chamber overlooking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so sweet.
and it was a party too.
And
So
That's fun.
and so they came. And did you have a big reception when they came?
we were like 30 people. No, I mean, I think we went out to dinner just to kind of celebrate and mark the moment a little bit.
But your parents
Sarah-
were not there by then. Your parents had come back here because your
Right.
parents didn't spend Christmas with us.
So in the wedding photos, are you showing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bethany's in the wedding
Because
photos.
5 months,
Yeah.
sometimes people are like, look really pregnant. Sometimes it's what, you're pregnant?
I was showing.
Which is
Right.
great. That makes for really good wedding photos.
Yeah. And I had this great wedding photographer. I had my dad did all the wedding photos. So it was,
A photographer of some renown.
Yeah.
we got very lucky.
That's so
It was
great.
fun.
Yeah.
Huh. And so you had a kid 4 months after the wedding.
Yeah.
You had your first child. And then how long before the second kid?
2 years? They're 2 years apart?
And you knew you wanted two kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. In France, it's called the king's choice, to have a boy and a girl, one to take over the kingdom and one to marry off to make the kingdom bigger.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so that worked out,
We just got lucky.
worked out pretty good so far. And so
You don't like the king? Oh, it's not the queen's choice.
I'm not going to force my children to get married.
Well, it was just the concept back then. I mean, who knows
No,
what they're
I
going
was
to do in
happy
their
to
life
have a
now.
boy and a girl. I mean,
you're married
you're
to
very content.
somebody who's got a lot of land in like Red Hook or Milan.
I know.
Expand the kingdom.
Expand the kingdom. Exactly.
Yeah. That's great. So do the kids speak French?
Bethany speaks fluently French.
Uh-huh.
Benjamin, it's a little bit more complicated because he moved here. He was 3-4 years old. He was very young. So he understands. But speaking is harder for him. But he's pretty good at it. He has a big accent when he speaks in French. Bethany, you can tell she's American. You can tell she's not French, but maybe she's from Switzerland.
Yeah.
So
Ben just needs to spend a little bit more time in France and actually be there and be
Yeah.
forced to. Like, his teachers used to tell us that he spoke French in school to them only, and then he would come home and speak English with us because that was our common language.
Right.
So I think that's definitely more on us than it is on him.
So one of them has all the grammar, the other has the perfect accent.
Yes, Ben's got the grammar.
Oh.
And we did make them actually like take French in high school.
yeah.
Right.
I said, no, that one's not negotiable.
Right.
You
You're
have
not
to
taking
take Fr-
German.
you-
You're not
you-
taking German.
You're taking French. And I'm like,
And so they lived in Rhinebeck apart from
starting
their whole school
First
career?
grade for Bethany.
Okay.
Bethany studied first grade, and Benjamin was in pre-K.
Okay.
Yeah. He started in the Montessori here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. 4 years old.
And how was that experience for them?
I mean, the kids, it's hard to say because high school, middle school is just so hard
Yeah.
that there's always like a bittersweet situation where I know that they had a good time. They had great grades. They were, good kids. They never got into trouble. They played sports.
They barely got into trouble.
They barely got into trouble. But it's hard, nowadays it's hard to grow up with social media, with like, there's so much pressure on those kids to go to good college and to get good grades. I think it's hard to be a teenager growing in America for the past, 15, 20 years.
I think it's really hard also to answer that question in the moment with them. But as we see them now, Bethany just got her bachelor's last year in philosophy, neuroscience, and psychology. And
Wow.
she's getting her master's this year in social work. And so there's also like, it's in retrospect, you look at, the success and who she is today is clearly, she didn't suffer. And
They're very rounded.
yeah, and Rhinebeck has
responsible
had
and-
so many amazing opportunities. Culture Connect. I mean, she did the Madagascar trip, which was just the most ridiculous thing.
It's an amazing
Just
trip.
an amazing program,
Right.
An amazing trip.
She went back to Africa last summer. She went to Uganda to do helping a nonprofit with their schools and stuff.
So sweet. Do they speak French in Uganda as well?
No, they speak English.
They speak English,
Right.
So, and then Benjamin on the other side, the Rhinebeck Science Foundation, a little plug for Science Foundation. Like he's mechanical engineering at RPI, and I don't think he ever would have really thought about going into engineering if it hadn't been for all of the work the Science Foundation did in starting from elementary school
Yeah.
and building the STEM labs in middle school and high school.
And giving them the confidence to be smart. Doing engineering school, it's very challenging.
Right.
He's doing things that we cannot comprehend anymore. He's doing quantum mechanics. What is quantum mechanics?
Yeah.
I think he makes a lot of it up though.
I don't know.
Which,
But you have to give it has to come from the school district. It has to come from the will of the teachers to let them you can understand that. Your brain can do it.
Right.
And yeah.
they also Sarah and I decided we're going to be a part of this community, and so we dove in as well, and got as involved as we could. And Sarah was the head of the PTSO for the elementary school and for the middle school, and worked closely with everybody in high school as well. And on my end, I got involved with the soccer league.
Oh, nice.
And was on the board for many years and was the president of the Rhinebeck Soccer League for many years. And that was through those two kind of communities, Sarah and I feel like we met everybody in Rhinebeck, in many ways.
Right.
And the more people that we met, the more we fell in love with the community, and the more that we would just really appreciate that we've had the opportunity to raise our kids in this community.
Right. And apart from the community and the community of service, which is really kind of remarkable in this town, what are some of your favorite things about Rhinebeck?
So the big sellers before we moved here, when we were just coming as tourists to visit, was Santa Claus. I've never seen anything like that before. I was completely marveled by Santa Claus the first time I saw it. That was just so cool. The Duchess County Fair.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have this type of things in France. And Halloween. The fact that you could do Halloween, your kids could go in the street. You could lose your kids, you will find them. It felt so safe. That was the comfort and the happiness, and that was very cool.
Yeah, those were good events where you could also see not just the community, but the extended community, and everything that was going on. Porch Fest wasn't going on at the time, but
That's true.
Porch Fest has become one of my favorite things. Also, you go walk around, listen to music. I mean, I'm blown away by how much organization goes into that and how cool that
that's
is.
a spectacular event.
Oh yeah,
Porch Fest, so much organization, so much really good music.
great artwork,
Great. Pretty good artwork.
pretty good artwork.
Chalk art in the
Chalk
middle of the
art.
street, which honestly is one of the highlights of my year, sitting on my butt in the middle of the intersection.
He looks so cool.
Just drawing on the sidewalk
so
on
nice.
the street with chalk.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Like-
So now I ask you this question kind of tongue in cheek because you were doing a podcast of your own.
Yes.
And you all had me on it, and they asked
Which was
me
awesome.
the question, and I answered, and you said afterwards, those were all my favorite things.
Yes. So
What's the podcast? What's that about?
Hudson Valley Unleashed. It's Dave Leonard from Radio Woodstock, who did Radio Woodstock. His show was called Unleashed. John Michelle from Mega Brain Comics, and Josh Kroner from Terrapin. And the three of them got together and said, hey, we really want to do a podcast about the Hudson Valley luminaries. And there's so many amazing people in the Hudson Valley. Norm's just focused on Rhinebeck, so let's make it a little bit bigger. That was, yeah, that's
That's good.
and Josh and I have done a bunch of projects together, creative projects. I produced and directed a bunch of cooking videos that he did a couple of years ago, and I got him to be an executive producer on one of my short films that I shot a couple of years ago with Jeremiah Wanutu directing. And so he called me up and asked me if I would help produce this new podcast. And we've done, I would say probably 4 or 5 recording sessions. We're looking at starting to release in May. So that's why you haven't heard yours yet.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
which I'm looking forward to,
Chomping at the
which
bit.
is awesome.
And you, I know you did, you interviewed your mom.
Yep. She was the first.
And
We had to stick with somebody who I knew would be very supportive.
yes, moms are good that way, mostly. And you interviewed Jonathan Burkhart,
Yep.
who's just a fabulous interview.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And who else have you had or is coming up?
So we also had Willis Williams, who's been on, Richard Prowse as well, John Morgan, and this week actually we have Jeremiah Wanutu, who's coming on, and we just had a cancellation with the second one, so we're working on that. And then in March, Gary Chekhov, and
The owner of DST.
yeah, and I'm not sure who the second one is yet. So we're kind of we're taking our time with it, because obviously, especially when you have that many people, it has a similar vibe. We're looking for a similar vibe to Smartless, where it's more conversational as well. And very often it becomes, you ask a question, you listen to the answer, whereas a podcast like Smartless is a lot more free flowing, and it's much more of discussion based, conversational based.
So this is sort of an offshoot of your film work. And a couple of people you mentioned are, involved in film here in the Hudson Valley.
Yep.
And what is your film work? You talked about your farm work. What's the film work?
So the film work, well, my parents raised me in television. So that was, from an early age, my dad carried me around in a Snuggly on the set of Sesame Street
I love that.
while my mom was in stage managing. And when we came up to this area, my brother-in-laws who own BCDF Pictures, they started producing feature films. And so we took a lot of that production from my family and our background and, put that into these feature films. Personally, my background, I have a BFA in photography. So I joined the union, thanks to Jonathan. And then
Which union?
Local 600,
Okay.
which is the Cinematographers Guild.
Are
So
you in SAG as well?
I am in SAG as well.
Somebody
but
told
I
me
was
to
in
ask how you
Since
got back into SAG.
1981.
I was in SAG since 1982, actually. I
82?
know,
Oh.
yeah. I know, I just saw it. It's like, it's on
You
my
just saw
it's
it.
on my SAG card.
And your mom said to ask you how you got back into SAG.
Back into SAG. Well, yeah, so she had me on doing background on a feature film, and
Being an extra.
we had no idea that I owed back dues or
Oh,
anything.
geez.
And so they told her that she was going to get fined $500 unless I joined SAG. And I was like, okay, well, SAG dues are it's $3,200 to join at the time.
Right.
So they told me, well, you haven't paid your dues since 1985, so you have to pay all of your back dues. And I was like, this is going to be ridiculous. $119 later, because back in the day, the dues were like nothing.
Right.
I was able to join SAG again. So now I can do background work, and anytime that my brother Peter, who's a writer-director, does a movie, I specifically request to be the wedding photographer. Like that, I can hide behind my camera. Playing the wedding photographer in the movie. I've been wedding photographer in, I think, 4 of his movies.
Oh, I love that.
Now you wouldn't recognize me. You probably didn't recognize my Nikon, but
And you said you did your own movies, short with Jeremiah.
I love the short film just because it's, I can go in and do like hardcore production for 2 or 3 days and then get out of it, as opposed to a feature film where you're doing a 90-page script, you need at least 20 days of shooting, and that doesn't count. For the directors and the writers, a year of prep sometimes. And then for the art department, 6 weeks ahead of time. So, they get into these bigger productions. And as much as I love it, it wasn't sustainable for having kids in middle school. So when the kids went into middle school and needed help with homework, and I was gone for weeks and weeks at a time, that's when I kind of transitioned out of the film industry a little bit and started my own company, HV Builders, which is a construction company here in Rhinebeck.
Oh, and what kind of stuff does HV Builders do?
I say we're a boutique construction company, so depending on the time of year, we do a lot of kitchens, bathrooms, decks, a lot of remodeling, restoration. I've had the opportunity to work on a bunch of like older properties in Rhinebeck. A small crew, 5 guys that running full time, and for me, it's staying in that creative realm, helping people kind of see out their vision of what it is that they want to live in, and shelter and food are 2 of the 3 things that we need. Water being number 3. Yeah,
Right.
to survive.
What a treat. So were you always working on your own place, the little farm?
Oh yeah, we're still working on it. You kidding me?
Farm.
Yeah.
And you always have things to do. You always lose shingles. You always have a tree fall on your roof. You always have things to do.
You always have a tree fall on the roof.
That was last week. That was so last week.
No, so last week.
So last week.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the land of the never-ending chore.
Yeah.
But that suits you both.
It really does suit us both. We love we keep moving.
Yeah.
We don't get bored.
And the farm you grew up on in France, did it have a name?
No, don't really have a name. But yeah, I mean, it was,
Well, now there's an association.
yeah, but I'm thinking about my grandparents' farm. It didn't have a name.
No.
Because the house is not really a farm. But
Right.
yeah, no, my grandpa had a farm and he raised, cattle for food. But what he was doing was grapes for cognac.
Oh.
That was his main thing.
Huh. What kind of grapes?
It's a white grape.
Right.
It tastes awful, but it makes good cognac.
Makes a good cognac.
Yeah.
We'll turn it into alcohol and distill it and
Sure.
change. Yeah.
Just about
Why not?
Yeah.
everything works pretty well. And do you make any alcohol yourselves?
No, you're not allowed to.
Oh, right. Right. Sorry.
Well, you can ferment yourselves, but you can't. You can own a still, but you can't use a still.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Federal
What do you-
law.
And what fruits or maybe vegetables do you have on the little farm that would be distillable?
So for about every other year, we get about 300 pounds of pears.
Yeah.
And so we've been doing cider with the pears. And then my good friend Matt Lordy, I've been giving him the cider, and he's been making perry with the cider. So it's been an experiment.
Perry?
Perry.
It's kind of like a hard cider, but with pear. It's like probably a 2%, 3% thing once, at the end. It's kind of like a bubbly.
But we've also planted.
Drink.
We have elderberry plants, which we've never done an elderberry wine with, but we've done elderberry tincture for the flu season. Raspberries and berries.
People swear by that.
Oh yeah,
Elderberry tincture.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And the way you eyes lit up,
I
you
love
both
it.
swear by that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
hope so. I mean, I
we've
take
used
it
for
take it
years.
often.
Yeah.
What's that?
We've used it for years.
And so
Yeah.
what do? You take a tablespoon every morning or?
It's more like a dropper.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, what is the quarter of a teaspoon maybe? Because
Maybe.
it's a vodka distillate. So you use hard alcohol like Everclear vodka to marinate the fruit. Then you filter it and then you use very small quantities. Like,
Right. So in the course of your foraging, you probably come upon a lot of things that are used for medicinal purposes.
yeah.
What are some of the other things?
What do? I do propolis tincture because we have beehives, so we harvest the propolis, which is like the binding agent that they use to glue things together.
Okay.
That's a very strong like antiseptic, antibiotic. We do elderberry flower. It's very good for allergy also. We do
There are a bunch of mushrooms also that you.
turkey tail tincture.
Turkey tail?
Turkey tail tincture.
Is turkey tail a mushroom or
It's a
turkey?
mushroom. It's a mushroom. It's a mushroom. What else do we have?
But also, like, I mean, you do your own, lip balms with our
Yes.
beeswax, and so we're trying to use as much as we can from the property. And if you come to the house, it just looks like a house. I mean, but we actually do a lot with that little property.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And do you sell Le Petit Ferme branded lip balms and tinctures
It's
and
Christmas presents.
uh-huh.
We sell it private.
Wait.
Yeah. You want to be on the list?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be great. I'd love to be on the list. And what are the most popular items in your catalog?
The lip balm, like this year I was like, I'm not gonna do lip balm. I do it every year, and people complained.
Yeah.
I was like,
Where's my
We
free
did-
lip balm?
we didn't get lip balms this year. I was like, okay,
The other one that we do a lot of is we do a lot of chili peppers.
that's true.
And so we do some pretty intense hot sauce projects.
What kinds of peppers do you have?
So many.
Every year is a little bit different, but this year the hottest pepper we have is called a Death Spiral.
Oh,
And
what,
it's
a death spiral?
Death Spiral,
Adorable
1.3
name.
million Scoville, like hotter,
1.3 million.
hotter than any, crazy.
We had to evacuate the house.
A couple times.
No, really?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Why? Because you were cooking it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't breathe in the other room, even the living room.
Oh yeah, we had to open all the windows, evacuate the house, put fans up.
So that's the last time you did that.
No,
That was-
no.
No. I did twice.
We need an outdoor fire.
So we do. So we have an outdoor fire. We do our maple syrup. So
Okay.
we have a small maple grove and do our own maple syrup every year.
How many maple trees do you have?
We tap. Well, there are a lot of maple trees, but we don't have any sugar maples. They're all silver maples. So there's
Like 8 maybe,
Yeah, I think
6, 8.
yeah. We only tap about 8.
And so do you have those sort of like blue tubes going
Yeah.
between them? And
Yeah.
We have
all
bucket. We have buckets
come
under
downhill.
spigots.
Yeah, we did the bucket under the spigot. It was a little bit more romantic when you drive down. You see the metal bucket hanging off of the tree.
Yeah.
It was like a little more old school, and so
Yeah.
it's actually almost syrup time.
Some people have started. We're
Really?
behind.
What?
Yeah.
And how do
I'm
you know
always
that?
behind.
You've seen them out there hanging the buckets from the trees, or
Instagram.
Instagram? I love that.
There's a farm community on Instagram. That's lovely.
So now the light bulb just went off. It's like, oh, it's time to tap our trees.
Yeah.
When will that happen?
Well, I have to, it's a question of the weather. Like you want
It's
it to
gonna
be
get very
above.
cold
You want it
next
to be
week.
above freezing during the day and below freezing at night, so that the trees actually start pushing all of their sap back up into the branches.
Maybe a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Couple of weeks because it's going to be very cold next week.
So what about these people who started already?
They're probably just cooler than we are. Yeah. So
But what happens if you tap? You said it's going to be freezing next week.
the taps
What
freeze.
happens if you? Okay,
No.
It
that's-
just the sap doesn't come up. It just freezes.
right.
Yeah. So it wouldn't hurt to like tap them early, but then you're processing. So like you have to take raw sap and actually cook it down and turn it into syrup.
Right.
You can't hold on to it for too long. It's
It
not
takes
pasteurized.
a long time.
Love that. Well, it takes a long time. This interview has not taken a long time. It's over.
That's
It's been
wild.
An hour.
It goes quick.
I could talk to you guys forever. I want to get on your list. I want
get
to
on
get,
to the
I
next
want to get
hour.
some syrup. Yeah. And some elderberry wine whenever you make that.
Oh, we make sourdough bread also.
I know. Yeah. That's the
Jacob
good next one.
And Sarah Hutchings.
Thank
Happy
you.
Valentine's Day. Thanks for being a
Thank
beautiful
you,
couple
Norm.
and being here and talking with me.
Thank you for having us. It
thanks
was a
to-
pleasure.
Thanks to Jen Hammoud, the fabulous
Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
producer. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a great Friday night and a fabulous weekend.